Key stats for picking a winner at the Wyndham Championship, and what a story it was last year. Lucas Glover was number one in the field in one stat. We're going to tell you what it was, why he won, and some crucial holes at Sedgefield Country Club, what it means, but we start with the weather issues. You better pick a player who can nail it in the wind and not worry about the rain. Thursday and Friday, raining and wind gusts up to 20 miles an hour. Benny Betts, what does that mean picking a winner this week?
You need a mutter, mate. You need the mutters. It's Tropical Storm or Hurricane Debbie or whatever the after effects are going to be from that. It's going to be wet. It's going to be wild. They might have delays. They're going to have issues like that. We'll probably play lift clean in place. It's going to be a big factor, especially when you realize these guys are playing for playoff spots, right? They're playing for that top 70. They're trying to get in there. If you're already tucked away in the 70, you might not necessarily be that keen to be out in the rain and be doing that much out there. And in fact, you might end up finishing a little early. But if you really need a top 5 or a top 10, you better be ready to go in the wet, and you better be ready to take dead aim. Much like the Olympics last week, right? It's like top 5, top 10 or bust for a lot of these guys. With that in mind, we're going to see some great golf, I think, even in the wet conditions.
And you are going to be getting a lot of stats from us here on Key Stats Golfbet. Hit that subscribe button, because this is the video where we give you all of the historical information of why past winners have won at this course. So we've already started with guys who can hit it well in the rain and in the wind and not have the mental fatigue of falling off, and then the whole thing with the FedEx Cup playoffs. You want guys who feel like they can play really well under pressure. Now, our one big key stat we had mentioned with Lucas Glover, driving accuracy, and look at these last 5 winners at this event and how great they've been. Minus Kevin Kisner a couple of years ago, but that was kind of screwed a little bit though, Ben.
100%, Chrissy Boyle. I mean, look, even in Kisner's year, he was sitting there with 5 other players in a 6-man playoff, and half of those were ahead of him on the driving stats that year in terms of accuracy. So it's clearly an important stat. It's clearly something that players have to be able to handle. You've got to get it in play and figure it out from there. You're going to have more chances to get at those greens. You're going to have more chances to get birdie chances, especially, as we'll talk about soon, on the front side of this course. If you don't, you'll get left behind. You can easily do it from the short grass, and they're going to get, as I said, most likely some lift, clean, and place stuff. So you want to be in the fairway. You pick it up, clean your ball. It's going to be great. You're in the rough. You're in wet, thick, dirty rough with mud. You're in trouble. So you better get it off the tee nice and straight this week, or you're in trouble.
So maybe you're not caring at all about how far your player hits the golf ball, hitting it in play. And there's also one correlation to this whole thing. Look, every week winners putt very well. But Ben has found a specific scenario here linking one stat to putting this week, Ben.
Strokes gained approach, strokes gained putting. The winners of the last, 4 years have been in both the top 15 of both stats. Either they've led one and been in the top 15 of the other, or vice versa. It's crazy. 3 of those 5 winners, I think the last 5 winners, have been leaders in one of those and inside the top 15 of the other. They go hand in hand. You've got to be accurate and you on approach, and then you've got to actually cash in and make the putts, because players go low here. It's a peak die, right? Like I believe in it. If you're not accurate, you're dead. If you want to try to overcome it with distance, you won't win. You know, especially as I said, with this wet rough, you're going to have problems. You got to get it in play first. You got to play strategic golf, and from there, you'll be able to make hay while the sun shines, so to speak.
So as we go through the course here, some specific nuggets you should know about Sedgefield Country Club is that front 9, Benny, going to be playing way easier than the back?
You'll see that from in these last few years, the front 9 has played to average under par. Players have got to make their score there on that front side, and then they hit the really tough side of the course. In fact, the 10th, 11th, and 12th since 2018 have all individually played over par, and of course as a group have played over par as well. So you've really got to battle there as you start the back 9. And for some players, Thursday, Friday, that's how you start this course. So you've got to survive. And then you hit the 14th, which last year, you see, there was a 4.34. That made it the 23rd hardest hole of the whole season. And this is a course where generally players go low, but it was the hardest hole for the last 4 years in a row on this course as well. It's always tough. You've got to sort of survive that 10, 11, 12, and 14, and you've got to make the birdies while you can in bunches on the front 9. So, if you're looking at live betting, this is really critical. If your guy starts at the 10th, right, on Thursday,
Right.
I'm not betting him pre-tournament. I'm waiting till he's getting through the 14th hole. I'm literally waiting. He gets through the 14th hole. Chances are he's even, he's 1 over, or whatever. That's when you jump on, right? That's when you figure it out. If you've got a guy starting on the first, maybe you do need to get on him pre-tournament. So that's why that's important. And again, same thing for Friday. If you've got a player who's gone really well Thursday, and he's a bit of an outlier, and you're a bit worried, make sure you check if he's starting on the 10th on Friday, because he could go from diamonds to rocks pretty quickly, or vice versa. He's gotten through the tough and he's starting on the first on Friday. That could be someone who could make a move.
Another thing, if you're sitting there at home watching, you're looking at what stats are important. Look at your players who are better with back nine scoring. And it's a serious thing on tour when you look at the stats. Front nine scoring versus back nine scoring could make a very big difference. So I know we're throwing a lot of information out here to you, but just the fact of go over your numbers, who's doing well in that middle part of the course, who's doing well late in the course, as opposed to guys who are spreading it out even throughout their entire round. Now, here's what we always like to do as well here on Key Stats is course form and recent form, two very polarizing topics that pretty much every bettor and picker likes to look at. So we're going to give you the history of our former winners here at this place and how they were doing leading up to their win. Now, we got Lucas Glover, Tom Kim, Kevin Kisner. The white box is their previous results total at this course. The blue box is the 5 events they played before they won here at the Wyndham Championship. To me, Ben, this screams course history really doesn't mean much because Tom Kim won his only time here. Lucas Glover was not great at all before he won last year, missed 2 recent cuts, and Kevin Kisner did have a T3, but other than that, didn't have a great finish.
I'll say it means something here, except for the fact in terms of the win, right? If you're looking at your place markets, I think it means a lot. There are plenty of guys who have multiple top 10s at this course that I believe are targets again for you this week, right? So there's plenty of reason to still look at course history. But in terms of a winner, you're right. The trend is showing that perhaps more important is at least 1 or 2 pretty decent results in the lead up. You can see there 3 top 10s for Glover. Maybe we should have seen him coming. We didn't, but maybe we should have seen him coming last year. You've got Tom Kim, as you said there, 3rd and a 7th amongst those last 4 starts before his win, and even Kisner there, the 2 top 10. So we're seeing that, yes, you want to be in some form. I still think it does help to have some course knowledge, at least to be in the mix.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's guys like
some
Simpson, Billy Horschel, plenty of guys who have got multiple top 10, top 20s at this course. I think they'll be in the conversation this week. But yeah, maybe to be super clever, maybe we would have found Lucas Glover if we focused more on the last 5 rather than what he'd done at Sedgefield.
Yes, correct. And the one thing that I take away from these stats on these guys, all 3 of these winners had multiple top 10s right before they won this event. All of them had more than 2. A T6, a T4, and a 5th for Glover, a 7th and a 3rd for Tom Kim, a T8 and a T5 for Kevin Kisner. So it's kind of like what we've been talking about with the Open Championship. You're not finding form late in the year. You're not going to have a player who suddenly has been missing cuts and finishing T55 for 2 straight months and all of a sudden wins. You're playing your best golf in the summer, and you want to pick a player who's playing their best golf and has the entire month of July leading up to this.
Oh, Chris, you've got me opening the page to find who in this field, has 2 top 10s in their last 5 starts.
You're going to look it up now, aren't you?
Look, it's a trend. Trends can continue, they can break, but it's something to definitely look at. And there are a few guys, I said, if you maybe combine the 2, but with a heavier emphasis on the last 5, you might find some nuggets. I'm going off the cuff here, mate. I'm literally opening, but here's a couple of guys. Okay. Eric Cole, out of nowhere, was awesome last year, not so good this year, but has had 2 top 10s in his last 5 and played half decent at Sedgefield last year. Like, that's just someone I was not on my radar until you mentioned that. You got your Thomas Dietrichs, you've got your Nick Dunlaps, you've got Patrick Fishburne. I'm just running through these guys right now that are actually in some form that probably wouldn't have been on my radar had we not started to delve into these numbers, right? That's part of this. You're 100% right on if you're not in form yet, you're probably not going to be in form. But one guy, and I know you're going to start flashing up when we get to strokes gained, here's a guy that's had 4 top 12s in his last 4 starts.
Let's get to
Seuk
it.
Kim. I
Let's get to
believe
him.
he is our favorite this week.
He is our favorite, plus 1,600 Sung Jae's odds. And just to go back to the whole, needing 2 top 10s, you don't need 2 top 10s. Don't disqualify players because they don't have 2 top 10s. If you've got somebody who's right around there on the precipice of it, you're okay. Good form multiple times is what you want. Don't stress if it's T11 or T15. Now, if you're going to look at the strokes gained, we're going to go over the players in this field. Yeah, the players in this field who, on average per round, what they've gained on the field at this event since 2019. Now, we're only including players who have played here at least twice, just for the sake of the number and the variable, and we don't want to pick guys who've only played it once. That's not fair. Sung Jae is the man. He didn't play the Olympics. He's not going to be tired. He's had a break, but here's our problem, Benny, because you guys told me this when I picked him a few weeks ago. When he's the favorite, we all know what happens with Sung Jae
100, Chris. But here's the thing: how good is it to see a favorite plus 1,600?
I know,
we haven't
really.
seen this. It's ridiculous. How good? Scheffler's gone. There's no 350, 700, 600. We got 1,600. So actually, I mean, we'll get to this in Roundtable this week and Chalk Talk later this week. But actually, all of a sudden, we have a favorite that might be worth betting on. It might be worth ready to go. Look, Sung Jae, you're right. He's not necessarily performed his best when essentially the pressure is on him to do so. However, this is all the worlds colliding. Really, he should play well. Winning is hard, right? It's hard to do. I'm expecting Sung Jae. I mean, he honestly should be a lock for a top 5 this week. This course is a course he's great at. I just rattled off his last 4 starts. You're right. He hasn't had to travel last week from Paris. Honestly, there's a reason he's favorite, and you still get decent odds. So I'd like to see. I'm really expecting Sung Jae to play well this week. I'll be disappointed if he doesn't. I'll be disappointed if he's not there on the back night on Sunday. And he has to shatter, as we said, that myth that he can't perform when he's expected to. You see some good numbers there too. Billy Horschel is an interesting one for me.
Well, hold on. With Horschel, the concern, I think, is putting. Because he's putted lights out. And the rest of his game, minus off the tee maybe, has been very mediocre. So I think when you're looking at all these numbers, you have to look at the putting and see how well they've putted, because I feel like if you have a really high putting number, gaining strokes putting, that could really be misleading on how good your game actually is there, because you putt great, you're scoring great, no matter where you're at.
Yeah, and look, he may have figured out these greens. He may know them. Maybe that's the key here. He knows the greens. He kills these greens. But again, let's go back to the very first thing we said on this video. There is rain. There is weather. There is wind. These things actually affect how you even putt. Like high wind affects putting. And this is going to upset a few guys. So what I'm getting at is you might see people not making as many putts as they usually do, right? That might bring the field back in a way as well. You're going to have to essentially be able to handle this situation. Some guys are going to get luckier than others where the weather is, and you're going to have to go from there. So you're right. Like Billy's going to have to, that's a high standard of putting he's going to have to maintain, right? He's going to have to maintain that.
Webb Simpson's interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's been his place. It's you could call this the Webb Simpson Open. He's always plays well here. He always does great. Even as his career has trailed off, if you will, and his form everywhere else has suffered, he still plays decent at Sedgefield. So again, another great candidate. When you've got the 6,000, for me, that's brilliant, because I don't think he's going to necessarily win, but I think that means that we're going to get decent odds in those place markets. We're going to get, reasonable price for a top 20 or something along those lines. And that could be the sort of guy you can lock in. And also, we'll go to your fantasy sports or anything like that. Webb's almost a go-to guy this week, just to plug holes that way. I love what I'm seeing there on the end of this list, by the way. You know me and
you really believe Cam Davis after the travel, and I'm sorry, his putting's been so good here. It's just something about if his game is good enough at this course off the tee on the approach, because let me put it this way. You were out of town, so you didn't see Jonathan Vegas, won.
Yep.
Jonathan Vegas popped in our stats. We showed it on key stats for the 3M Open. He popped on our key stat, which was on the approach. That was the only one he popped on. Cam Davis is not popping on our stat here, on our key stat off the tee. That doesn't mean he can't play well. I'm just saying that's what I think you should be looking at here.
I think, again, I'm not necessarily saying this is a winner. That you're looking at a winner. I'm saying that you probably get some decent top 10 juice here on Cam Davis this week. Again, you go back to certain players just have it in their minds that courses are for them, and they do play well there. This is a course for Cam Davis. It's one of the ones that he enjoys playing. Normally he's good in places where you can hit it long. Not needed this week, so I'll have to keep it, in play, as we spoke about. He's going to need his driving accuracy to be there. But I think sometimes the mind game goes over the top. And as I said, he has performed well here in the past. He thinks this is a great place for him. The wet, not a problem necessarily for him, right? He can handle that. He's played well in wins before as well. That's the other thing too. I need to do more research. We all do, on who the mudders are, right? How has Billy Horschel gone when it's rained? How has Sung Jae Im with his perfect, robotic stroke gone when the weather is tough and it's not as obvious where the ball's going for him, right? That's what we need to find the mudders. I know Cam Davis can play well in the mud. I'm going to look heavier into who else can do so, and I urge everyone to do the same.
So that's 1 to 5 strokes gained per round. We're not done here. How about numbers 6 through 10? Seuk Kim, to me, is identical to Sung Jae when it comes to expectations to play well, and doesn't meet the expectations, and vice versa when you don't expect him to do well. Seuk Kim has been very good here. His numbers are very good on our 2 big key stats, off the tee and on the approach. His putting has been poor, which I would be more okay with, because you can get a hot putter and then turn it around and be great, as opposed to already being hot with a putter and needing to continue it. That's why I like Siwoo there, but something about Siwoo just scares me. But he's only one of many guys on this list I think are intriguing, including Will Zalatoris.
When it comes to Siwoo Kim, I'm going to be one of the people that jump in on him this week, but don't be surprised if he has a terrible week versus wins the thing. Right? He's a former champ. He doesn't have the variance that he used to have. He was much more volatile in his results in the past, where it would be like miss the cut by 7 or finish in the top 5. He's not that guy anymore, but there is still going to be some volatility when you bring the weather into play, when you bring how he putts, right? If he putts well, then he's going to obviously be in the mix here. Because as you said, look at those top 2 for him, right? 1.5 strokes combined off the tee and approach.
Right.
If he puts it in play, he is going to be a factor, right? The reason he's 25 to 1 plus 2,500 is because the punters, they don't know. They don't know which way he's going to go. Right, you could put him at 16 and still get takers. Or there'd be other people out there waiting for him to be 50. Right, like it's one of those things. He's going to either be right there or he's not going to be a factor. I tend to think this is a place where he loves. Again, he enjoys all the die courses and the ones where the accuracy is key, and he seems to putt, even though this stat doesn't necessarily show it, somewhat better on those courses. So I'm hoping to see that he can do that. When you look at the rest of this list, Poston's a former winner.
Taylor Moore has been really down on his game. I mean, he might be somebody you want to look at. Has he had a recent form? If you are curious about Taylor Moore, look at his recent form. If it's not good, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Maybe
I need to look at where he sits on the FedEx Cup list, right?
Like,
again, when you're looking at long shots this week, and we'll get into this more tomorrow, if your guy needs a top 3 finish, he's either going to get it or he's going to miss the cut, because he's going to chase it, right? He's going to go for it. So you have to decide, is this guy going to be good under the gun, under the pressure of that? Some guys need they just need to be in the top 45, but that can be the sort of thing that works against them as well. When the pressure ratchets up, I just need to be 45th.
Yeah.
Instead of playing aggressive, they can get left behind. So there's all those factors going into this. Taylor Moore would be a fascinating case study to see where he sits. Brendan Todd, I could have maybe guessed for this list, just because I know just from memory that he's had a few decent finishes here. But like Webb Simpson, aging out, yes, we could potentially see him. We could see a Glover, right?
Yeah.
Those are these guys that are aging out, but get to play well on this course. And Will Zalatoris, who knows? We haven't seen him at full fitness.
I don't know if anybody out there would truly believe Will Zalatoris is done. I mean, I think a big faction of people believes Will Zalatoris at some point is going to get back to the top of his game, and it could be this week. I mean, if he's going to be a course fit, if he is going to have stats that matter, if he's going to putt well enough is the issue, obviously. Why not here? I mean, he might need a year. He might need 2 years. The back might need to get way better than he's leading on. But this could be the week. We don't know.
Well, if you're one of those people that thinks he is going to get back to somewhat of the player he was before his back surgeries and back issues, right? If you think, then 1 in every 60 events is he going to win potentially? He's one of those guys that you could theoretically put your $2 on every week until he does make it back, right? And then as long as he gets there in 60 tries, you're going to be okay. Like I said, I'm not prepared to jump on, but I will not be surprised to see him return to form at some point. It's a matter of, as you said, getting through the injuries, getting some confidence back in his own body, some confidence that he's not going to be worried that in 2 days' time it's going to be hurting or it's going to be sore and maybe I'll have to WD. When he gets through that segment, the talent is still there. The talent's absolutely still there. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
We throw a lot of information at you on key stats. It's why we do it. Do your research. And Benny is going to do some research tonight on who's made top 10s recently.
100%. Let's go. 2-time top 10. You can play in the mud. You can play in the rain. You might win the Wyndham Championship.